Okay. Well, oh yeah, he's in. Okay, well, welcome everyone. This is our second summer Zoom presentation. And I wanted to say that I met Tim on October 30th, 2018 at our TWA Hard Hat Tour. And I was, impressed that he flew up. This was the first event, a regional event when we have people flying up, pleases me. But he asked, I guess, what I was doing the rest of the day, and I said that I had time, and he said one of his bucket list items was to walk over all the New York City bridges. So we walked to the Bronx on the High Bridge, and we walked back from the Bronx on the Washington Bridge. I think that's all.
And it took me 2 more years to finish.
And then I asked him he should join the board. And hopefully next month we're going to have Marge Jantz, the chairwoman of the Historic Preservation Commission in Casa Grande, Arizona, on August 19th. And I wanted to tell you to type your questions in the chat, and then we'll answer those at the end. And Tim thinks if we turn off our videos, then there'll be a bigger screen. So I'm going to do that.
Less distortion too. And if everybody could mute as well, that would be good, in case your doorbell rings.
Okay. I'm going.
All right. Hi, everybody. As Michael said, I'm Tim O'Brien. I'm a photojournalist, have been for over 50 years. God, it seems like a long time. But I've been taking pictures and writing about things for a long time. And I've kind of gone off to the roadside now. My major interests lie. I went through a carnival and amusement park and sideshow part of my life where I did a lot of photography, and that was all very colorful as well. But now that I've retired, I've kind of dropped everything else and gone into a mode where the quirkier the better. And that keeps me amused. But anyway, I'm the son of wanderlust, for sure, and I have a camera, which really is a double whammy and is very, very dangerous. And if you add that to the fact that I'm a helpless, passionate roadside junkie, well, that's really, really dangerous. And that's what you also get this book. This book I've been working on for several years, as you can imagine. And I'm going to shut my video off here so I don't disturb anybody. Anyway, that's the cover of my book. There's over 450 photos in it, and they're all of unconventional man-made objects and tableaus. And I'm an observational photographer. What I see is what you see. I don't Photoshop or use any post-production. I'm a documentary photographer, and it's worked well for me, and I kind of like that. And I might add that what I love about this particular collection of photos is that all the photos are the creative visions of mankind without the baggage of cultural influence. And I think that's what makes a good roadside photo. And the artists are the stars here. I'm not as a photographer, because the photos are only a vessel in which to pass along their artistic visions. And that's my whole theme, and that's my whole value of photography. All I am here is a vessel to pass along other images for you. Okay, and that's our cover right there. Tim O'Brien's Roadside Pics and Pics. The book was released a little over a month ago, and it's doing quite well. It's available on Amazon, but we'll talk about that later. And Okay, here I am welcoming everybody at the Noah Purify Museum of Assemblage Sculpture out in Joshua Tree, California. So introductions are done. So let's talk about the big, the huge, the high, and the half buried. Roadside art parks. That's not one of the huge, higher, half buried, but we've all been to them. We love them. They're roadside little attractions. They're always free. And what you're looking at here is Elmer Long's Bottle Tree Ranch in Oro Grande, California, along a long desert highway that is Route 66. And there's his collection. He's got over 2,000 bottles right here in his front yard. He got those from his father. When he was a child, he used to go out into the desert and collect bottles with his dad at all the junk piles and the junk yards, as well as the dumps. And he collected them with his dad. And over years, they got quite a nice collection. And the fun part of this is the fact that when his dad died, he willed them all to his son. So what does his son do with them? He creates a Bottle Tree Ranch. That's Elmer right there. So as you can see, he's not one of the mainstream men you see walking down the street every day. And unfortunately, Elmer died in June of 2019. And but his daughter and his rest of his family have decided that they're going to keep the Bottle Tree Ranch still open. Now this place here is amazing. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's probably the hottest museum in the world. And I don't mean hottest as cool. I mean hot as the fact it's in the gateway of Death Valley. And it's just outside of Beatty, Nevada, just down from the Rhyolite, a ghost town that probably a lot of you have seen. And this sculpture here is my favorite in this. It's the Goldwell Open Air Museum, and their official address is in Beatty. But this is my favorite. This is the Last Supper. And the whole museum was created to preserve the work of Belgian sculpture artist Albert Suzowski. And what he has done to create this amazing piece of work, he takes his interpretation, he takes plaster-soaked fabric and drapes it over the models, lets it dry, and that creates the somewhat haunting diorama as you see here. And what makes it really cool, I think, is just the stark background. Nothing in the background at all, except the mountains off into the horizon. And that one was called Last Supper. And of course, this one is called The Ghost Rider, along the same lines. Now, the photos I'm showing you are only a small segment of each of the chapters, but I chose tonight to show you my favorites. Here's another one of my favorites. This is up in Wisconsin, and it's called the Dr. Evermore. And Dr. Evermore is quite an amazing man. Dr. Evermore is really Tom Every's alter ego. And this is what I want to say, I guess a junkyard. Look at all the stuff he's compiled over the years, but he's created this whole punk style diorama, and it's really a steampunk style using scrap industrial salvage as its background. And it's really an eclectic landscape of a fictional Victorian character, which he calls Dr. Evermore. And Dr. Evermore, when he dies, he was to get into that little capsule pod, as you see up there, and then he'd be blasted off. You can see the blasting machines there. And there's all kinds of parts from old armor creation plants. And it's really an obsession with Tom Every. And again, we just lost Tom Every this last March. And they may move this. So if you want to see this, you got to get up there and see it. Here's another long distance shot of what the contraption looks like. But yet there's so much more on either of the sides. One of my favorite spots, East Jesus. And that's used as not a religious term here. It means out in the middle of nowhere. Really, here, let me give you the directions. It's just east of Niland, California, just southeast of the Salton Sea, on a dirt road about a mile past Salvation Mountain on the edge of Slab City. Yep, that's where you'll find Jesus. And there it is. It's a great community, an artistic community. People live there, they work there, they create there, and they want you to come in. As you can see off to the left there, they want you to enter, and aliens and dogs are welcome along with everybody else. And it's all socially relevant. What you see is, here is a whole wall of television sets with various combinations. Blah, you're fat, insecurity we trust, before your gods, the television will not be revolutionized. And that's just one of the socially relevant aspects of there. There's a little shrine built for the Yashica camera. I especially like this one because I started my photography career back in 1963 using a Yashica camera, 2.25, just like this one here. And it's a beautiful little piece of shrinery there, I guess you could say. There's another one, a shrine. It's Our Lady of Lost Souls and Beautiful Freaks. You see a lot of baby dolls there. You see glass bottles. You see a lot of concrete and glass work. And there's rubber. It's a rubber soul. It's a rubber soul peace sign with rubber tires in the background. And this is just outside the entrance. And they use rubber tires quite a bit throughout. You see them in the background painted a beige color. That loud lines the parking lot. But the day I was there, there's probably 15 cars there. And like I said, it's way out in the middle of nowhere, dust roads, potholes. You think you're going down an old loggers road or something, but it provides some great photography. Now we go to Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee. This is Billy Tripp's Mind Field. And it's right downtown, just a couple blocks from the courthouse. And Billy originally started this with an idea just to get rid of the trash in his front yard. And he kept building and building and building. And what this does is explains his life. If you look and you can read the various structures, it looks like a electrical substation when you drive up to it. But he has built all this himself. And it's quite odd that the town loves it because that brings a lot of people. They even have a little minefield cafe right next door. And Billy hangs around there. The second time I went out there, he was there and he explained what everything was going on. And he said, basically, this tells his life. And he didn't start it out as a place for people to come to watch and to look and listen, but just for himself. And it will never be done until the day he dies. And then he will be interred in that particular piece of artwork, and it will stay at that particular level until somebody has to tear it down, I guess. God never fails at Salvation Mountain. That's just down the road from the East Jesus that we saw a little bit ago. This is the love of one man, the late Leonard Knight. It's his tribute to God, and his gift to the world can be summed up in 3 words. God is love. As you can see, love and God is everywhere. And he built Salvation Mountain, which is God love, on the truck that he lived in all during the 20-some years that he was building this beautiful monument. And there it is, Salvation Mountain. It's a 50-foot tall, 150-foot wide edifice just on the outskirts of Slab City, which is next to East Jesus, which is just on the outskirts of Niland, California, which is near the Salton Sea, which that whole area is bonanza. I took probably 1,200 photos in those little 3 communities when I was out there. But this beautiful kaleidoscope of colors, and as you can see, the area was closed the day I was there because they had just gotten heavy rain. And you can walk up the mountain, and he over all the years, he basically spent 28 years using more than 1/2 gallons over 500,000 gallons, of mostly donated lead-free paint. It had to be lead-free because he wanted to care for the environment. Now this picture here is not in the book, but it's one that I wish I would have put in because it's maybe one of the most unusual ones. This is Ponygate outside of Lincoln, Massachusetts. And it's an open field with little bouncing ponies, as you can see. And one person put one out there just as a lark, then another neighbor put another one out there, and they just kept adding. And the owner of the field says, I don't care, just leave them out there. And what happens, someday you might come by and they'll all be in one line. And then the next day they'll be in a circle. And it's kind of a mystery. The neighbors don't like it because of all the traffic that it brings. There's no easy place to pull over. But it's a fun, again, it's a obscure and somewhat whimsical roadside attraction. Now let's get to the high parts of this book, things on a pole. And that can be anything, as you will see here. This is a veterinarian office. And there's a miniature golf course with flying pigs on a pole. There's an ice cream cone in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. The world's largest soda pop. And you can see where that is. That's in St. Louis. And that's from the Vest Bottling Company. And then there's the world's largest ketchup bottle in Collinsville in Illinois. And that is amazing yourself. It's hard to get a good picture to see everything, but you need to see this whole water tower. And you can drive around, and the ketchup company is long gone from the buildings below, but the ketchup bottle is still attracting a lot of tourists. Look, this is one of my favorites in this entire book. This is out in Wyoming. It's in Sundance, Wyoming. And this old plane is on a pivot there, as you can see, and it's used as a windsock for an airport, which is just over the other hill there. And I was driving down I-90, about, I don't know, 80, 85 mile an hour, and I saw this coming up. So I hung my hand out the window and shot a left-handed picture. And it came out pretty good. I was really happy with this. But that's one of the fun parts of being a roadside photographer. You just never know what's going to happen on the other side of that next hill or around that next curve. And if you've got the wanderlust and the curiosity, these kind of things are going to present themselves to you. Hillbilly hot dogs. How many people have been to Osage, West Virginia? It's spend hours right there just looking at this stuff, even if you don't eat their hot dogs. I had a chicken sandwich, which was good. But again, it's out along the river just on the border of of Kentucky and West Virginia. There's a truck on a pole coming down I-84, I believe, in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. And who can forget the Bluesmobile? That's in Joliet, Illinois. And you know the story of Joliet Jake, one of the Blues Brothers. Well, he was named after Joliet, Illinois. And so they had to put up his little Bluesmobile at a gas station there. And what's really interesting, not too many people think about, Joliet Jake's partner in the Blues Brothers was Elwood Blues. And Elwood, Illinois is just about 10 miles down the road from Joliet. So that's how they got their number. So as you can imagine, that whole area loves the whole concept of the Blues Brothers. Studio City, California, a very unique photo of a Corvette on top of a pole with a hand and a sponge getting ready to give it a hand car wash. Tires seem to be a very, very big item on poles. I guess if you're living out in the country or you're selling tires, what do you do with an old tire? You just put them in a pile. They're hard to get rid of. So a lot of people put them on poles. There's several ways you can mount them high like that. You can put them this way with a hole down through the middle on the right. You can paint them and hang them. You can mount them professionally, or you can paint them and stick a hole through the bottom and mount them like that. And I've got bunches of pictures that I didn't even put in the book on tires around the country. Casey Jones. This is a caboose out of the Casey Jones Village in Jackson, Tennessee. Now you remember the story about Casey Jones. Back in 1900, he was engineering a train and crashed into another train down in Mississippi. And he was the only one killed out of his heroic ways of trying to stop the train. And the whole legend of Casey Jones and the freight train and the train that he was driving. And you probably remember singing the song, The Ballad of Casey Jones, when you were a kid. But that whole village, a little town where he worked out of, where he was born, his childhood home is now a museum. And this caboose is quite a showstopper. Yeah, you'll definitely see it. You know, people put things on poles, mostly for advertising, to show you what you're about to see below. But like in the tire case or some of the others that I have in the book, they put them on poles just because they don't know what else to do with them, or they want to see something on a pole out in their front yard, which is kind of fun. Now, half buried. The whole concept of half buried always, I guess, amused me, because again, what do people do with junk cars? What do people do? And if you can't mount them on a pole, you might as well bury them. So this particular bus is as really the centerpiece of the International Car Force of the Last Church out in Goldfield, Nevada. Now, not only has this place got more buried vehicles than any other half-buried spot in the country, but it's also, I think, it's got the greatest name of them all. It's 80 acres, there's more than 40 cars and vehicles, and you can see it's out in the middle of the desert. Got to watch out for the rattlesnakes when you're walking around, and the sagebrush. But the colors that you see on these cars, seems like every time you have buried something, it almost gives you a carte blanche, excuse me, carte blanche invitation to bring a spray can and start painting. And some of the paintings are quite amazing, as you can see here. And again, the stark color against the brown background and the Joshua trees and the hills are just amazing. I took over 400 pictures that day. It just, because every time I think I got one at a right angle or the wrong angle, I go back and I walk through it again, and there it is. Okay, now that's not at the Lost Church. This is Cadillac Ranch out in Amarillo, California, Texas. And there's 10, this is probably one everybody in the world knows about. This really is the one that created my interest in half-buried vehicles. It's a colorful, excuse me, it's a colorful homage to America's car culture. And what happened was they buried 10 tail-fin Cadillacs representing the golden age, which is, I think, between 1948 and 1963 of the American automobile. They're all buried nose first, tail fins up on that flat plane, again, where you can see virtually forever. And they're lined up, they say, I can only believe what people tell me, but they're lined up at the same angle as a Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. You see the coats of paint on these things. The day I visited, last time I was out there, there was a group of Frenchmen, and they all had matching jackets on. There was like 14 or 15 of them. I think they were some kind of a team, maybe a bicycling team or whatever, from France. And they just loved it. They each had 2 or 3 cans of spray paint, and the place was just full of fumes. Look at, you can see how many levels right there are on the axle, I guess, of the car. Now, across town from Amarillo, kind of to reflect the whole homage to Cadillacs at Cadillac Ranch, is an homage to Volkswagen Bugs. This is called the Bug Ranch, or some people call it the Slug Bug Ranch. And it was created back in 2002, and there's 5 Volkswagen Beetles, as you can see. And now the Crutchfield family owned the Longhorn Trading Post right next door to this vacant spot along the I-40 coming through Amarillo. And they had heard that a major super gas plaza was going to be opening up across from them. So what they wanted to do is bring something that would bring people to their ranch that was a little bit different, or their trading post. And again, use these as an advertising gimmick to get people to come across the street. Well, it worked for a year, but the Crutchfields abandoned their business, and these little Volkswagen bugs, as you can see, have been painted and have been ripped apart. And I think they're just letting them sit there until they just disappear. And there wasn't anybody there the day I was there. And it was kind of fun taking the pictures. Oops, there's another Volkswagen that's half buried. I guess that they're easy to bury because they're so small. This is at OK County 66. It's in Arcadia, Oklahoma, right on Route 66. Car Hinge in Alliance, Nebraska. Wonderful place. This is probably the most commercial of all of the half-buried sites that I have in the book or that even exist. And these were created back in 87 during the summer solstice, I believe. And they used cars, they painted them the gray colors that the stones would be. And they said this is a great replica of what Stonehenge is all about. You can see how they're buried. They're some up, some down. And I like this place too because it's got a gift shop. The only place in the gift shop. All right, on just south of Amarillo is Combine City. Farmers got 14 combines out in the field next to his property. You can see his crop fields out back. And he used one combine for years and just sat in the barn to take parts to fix his new combines if they broke down or whatever. Then after a while, he didn't want to get rid of it, so he just buried it in the field, again, as an homage to Cadillac Ranch. And now he's got 14 of them buried out there at different depths. He's got a barbed wire fence going around the whole place, keeping people out. And it has worked to some extent because there's not a spray painted graffiti on anywhere on these. Oh, this is one that I had totally no knowledge of until the day I found it. And this is in Cudahy, Wisconsin, just near the airport, the Milwaukee airport. And they call it the sinking Cadillac. And Jim Cudahy is the owner of this area. I'm sorry, not Jim Cudahy. I forget his last name, but anyway, he built this, and he's got his whole backyard and his side yard is full of all these folk art pieces. And I'm glad he buried a car. He cut it in half, as you can see, and buried it in the middle, which is unique. None of the others are buried quite that same. And beautiful clouds the day I showed up out here. This is in Connecticut. And the fun part of this is it's Wild Bill's nostalgia. This is only a small part of his entire complex. I should say was, because he died. His daughters tried to run the place for a year. It didn't work. So they have sold. And I think the final auction is just coming up in a couple of weeks on all the parts. But he had everything from vinyl records. He had the world's largest jack-in-the-box with an image of him popping out of the top of the silo. But the part on this place I liked, and I went directly to, was his buried vehicles. And as you can see, there's a captain standing back there, and all kinds of boats, all kinds of skidoos, all kinds of water vehicles are buried, and again, planted and painted. Now again, this is up in Wisconsin as well, and this is in a neighborhood that you wouldn't think about. You drive along the road, there it is, and you wonder, first of all, what the neighbors are thinking about all that being there. But it's the House of Buried Cars. It's in the Milwaukee west side of it, and it's owned by a guy that owns an auto body shop in downtown Milwaukee. And his slogan is, "If we can't fix it, we'll bury it." Well, I guess that's proof that he does. And his name is Tony Ballesteri, and he takes this with a very good tongue in cheek. And you see the Cadillac to the left, and I'm not sure what the car is to the right, and he's got a Model T off to the side. And then you see a Volkswagen that looks like it's bursting through the hedges coming out of the backyard. But that's really a place for his dog to come out from the backyard and look through the windshield and see the world going by. And it's also a good way for the dog to keep an eye on the front yard to see what's going on. And I walked around that yard and nobody bothered me. And right next door are really nice houses. And again, I don't know if I'd want that, even as much as I love it here. I don't know if I'd want that in my side yard. Now, my favorite topic in the book, and I think probably a lot of you, are the roadside giants. We're all familiar with the big things that are built on the side of the highways, advertising, or just as larks that people have built themselves, folk artists have built on their own. This is one of the Cabazon dinosaurs from Cabazon, California, on the road to Palm Springs. There you go. Pink elephants. Who hasn't seen a pink elephant in their life? Maybe not real, maybe because you drank too much. But pink elephants are here. They're here to stay. More and more of them are popping up every year. They've all got nice slogans behind them. And what's really funny is a pit stop drive-in up in the left there you see. That's in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And that's actually in front of a 24-hour drive-in liquor store. A lot of the one up on the right is in Livingston, Illinois, at Livingston Antique Mall. It's there to, again, draw attention to the antique store. Then a lot of people like to put glasses on pink elephants for some reason. And you see a lot of them, like the one on the bottom right, in front of car dealerships for some reason. And of course, big cows on the side of the road wear glasses too. I love this photo. And a Catoosa whale in Catoosa, Oklahoma. Big whale, little hat that you can see. Very popular back in the 60s and 70s. And the people have restored it. And it's now a free attraction. You can come in. And again, they've got a little gift shop that helps fund the upkeep of the whale itself. And donuts, particular favorite of mine. The Donut King up to the left, Angel Food Donuts down to the left, and then Randy's Donuts. That's one we mostly see in movies about the large donuts. These are all out in the LA area. Randy's is in Inglewood, and most of them are either in Long Beach or Gardenia. There's more. And right in the middle on the bottom row there, you see Bellflower Bagels. I guess nobody said you can't make a bagel out of a donut. So they've created that, and they've got a bagel shop, and they don't sell donuts. And the fun part about the upper right-hand side is the Dunkin' Donuts in Long Beach. They tore down an old donut shop that had the big donut out front to build a Dunkin' Donuts. And immediately the neighborhood went up in arms, the fact that they tore down the big donut. And the city wouldn't give them the permit, from what I understand, unless they promised that they would restore the donut and make it a part of their new sign when they put it up when they opened. And it's amazing how people that live close to these things can really become attached to them and become very proud of them over the years. At the southern edge of the extraterrestrial highway, just about 20 miles from Area 51 in Hyco, Nevada, is the Alien Research Center. And who beckons you to come into an alien research center better than a big old tin alien? Now to the other coast, back up in Maine, here's the Big F Indian. F in this particular instance stands for Freeport. So it's right outside of the LL Bean stores and right outside the village of Freeport, Maine, which is a big tourist area. This has been there since the 1950s. And it used to be beckoning you to come into a small trading post that was at the foot of it. Now the businesses have changed 4 or 5 times, but again, the community have embraced this Indian and have kept it nice, clean. They've kept it restored over the years. Probably the most beautiful in traditional standards that in the entire book is this wonderful 50-foot tall statue of dignity. This is a salute to the Native American woman of the plains, and she stands high above the Missouri River out there, overlooking Chamberlain, South Dakota. And it's, you can see the sparkling areas there in the middle. Those are like mirrored images, but those are little flaps put in to allow the wind to move through it so it wouldn't blow the statue over, because she's at such a high level there. And by doing that, the wind blows these sparkles back and forth, so it gives off a little glitter, which is beautiful. And you can see the majestic size of her. You can see the two. In fact, those two guys were from Germany that were traveling to L.A. and had heard about this. She's located in the Lewis and Clark Roadside Park and Travel Plaza along Highway 90 in Chamberlain, right outside of the village of Chamberlain. There's Freck. Now this is a homemade miner that's just somebody decided to create and put up. I don't know if there's another duplicate like it or not, because you see it, a lot of the giants are mass produced, but painted to make them look different, to represent different things that they're advertising. And what they're doing is creating an image. Well, somebody, I guess, really into the mining, but this is in Galena, Kansas. His name is Freck. Now, what we were talking about earlier, these, if you look closely, these are called muffler men because they were originally created to hold mufflers. And all of their hands, look at their right hand, excuse me, is holding the exact same pose, and the left hand has got the same. And these were used over and over again by different companies for different things. The one on the left is a small muffler. The one in the middle is in Atlanta, Illinois. And they took it from down the road and brought it down and actually put it in downtown Atlanta and put a hot dog in his hand. And then to the right is a Jura Muffler Company in Escondido, California. And he's dressed up for Christmas this year. He just got I took this in early December, and they just got a brand new outfit for him this year. There are more. There's a Porsche Motorsports out in Long Beach on the left. The one in the middle is probably one of my first roadside pictures I ever took. That was in Tampa. And I took that back in the 90s of a muffler man. And again, you can see their hands. Then the Lauterbach tire guy up in the right-hand corner. Unfortunately, I couldn't jump high enough to bring the flag down to make that look like a nice photo. And then the guy at the bottom, I don't know what he had in his hand, because the day I showed up there, his arms were broken off. But from what I understand, he was restored and put back into business right next to an Esso gas station. And that's it. The name of the book is Tim O'Brien's Roadside Pics and Pics, and I'm available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and you can reach me. There's an email that you can reach me right there. And I want you to remember that you should never pass up the opportunity to follow a pink elephant if you get the chance. So let's open it up to any questions that we might have.
There's a few here already.
Oh, good.
Well, Mr. Ice Cream asked if you know his wife's cousin, John Margolis.
Oh, John was, I think he was probably the pioneer of roadside photography. He's got a whole bunch of books out, beautiful stuff. He actually brought attention to a lot of roadside, which increased the interest of a lot of the locals and people to start preserving them. So yeah, John is amazing. He died quite a few years back, but he gave all of his negatives and all of his slides to the Library of Congress, I believe. And they're all available online for you to look at it anytime you want.
And then, yes, someone asked about the explanations in the book. And
The explanations?
somebody asked about where that pony field was again.
Oh, it's right outside of Lincoln, Massachusetts. It's almost due west of Boston. I think it's within the loop, the 495 loop that goes around it, or 295. No, 495. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think you had some explanation of those places in the book. Someone was asking.
Yeah, what I wanted to do is I wanted to highlight the pictures as an exhibition, just with very little explanation about the photo itself. I go into what's called a preface of an exhibition, or a prelude to an exhibition up front, and I explain my theory about how I shoot and why I shoot the photography that I do, and I also get into some of the locations. But at the back of the book, what I do is suggest that you go to roadsideamerica.com. They've got a great site, and they cover a lot of this stuff. And you can find out more information about each one of those. So I'm kind of using them as a supplement to the book for further and deeper information. Like if you wanted to look up the Jure muffler man, for instance, you could go into California. You could go to Roadside America. I'm sorry, roadsideamerica.com, and look in California. You'll find it. It'll give you exact directions, phone number, and everything else. So instead of getting into the nitty gritty and taking up so much space, taking note of exactly what it is. And then also the roadside attractions, the roadside art parks. I give you a different appendix for that with the actual websites of each one of those, if they're available, and where to find out more information about them. So you can use this book to enjoy the photos and to find out what the stuff is, and dig a little deeper to find out more about the specifics. That's a real value of the Roadside America at this point.
I mean, are all these places still existing, or any of them gone, I guess?
I think everything that I showed you tonight is still there. Some things in the book are gone, like the, what was it? Well, like Wild Bills, I'm sorry, they're gone. Unfortunately, they closed about a year after I was there. But I think out of the 450 pictures and all the locations, there's only 2 or 3. Biggest one that's out of business is Airstream Ranch, which is on I-4 right outside of Tampa. And it was an Airstream dealership, Airstream Trailers. They created, again, an homage to Cadillac Ranch by half burying the Airstream, vintage Airstream travel trailers next to I-4, much to the chagrin of all the neighbors that had to look out their doors and seeing the sunshine hit those hot trailers, that silver trailer. And he tried to grow flowers and trees around each one of them, but the sun kept burning them out. So he had to end up using some plywood cutouts of cows to add additional attractions to his Airstream. But that was torn down about 2 years ago when a new person took over the dealership, and they actually plowed down, bulldozed down the trailers. They didn't even try to save them. Any more?
I think
And you know, the fun part of
yeah.
fun side of roadside photography is that, like I'd said earlier, it's the wanderlust and the curiosity that you have as you drive down. You know, the fecundity of the whole feel that you get, not knowing what's over there is fun. A lot of stuff, you know, when I travel, I do a lot of miles, a lot of side road travel, and what I do is I plot it on a paper map to start with. I look at the paper map. I said, okay, if I want to get to there, I want to go from here to there. And what are these little villages? What do you think I'm going to be able to find between here? And I do some research, and then, oh, that's not going to be exciting. How else can I get there? And I get the basic course with maps, paper maps, those old-fashioned paper maps, which I love. And you look at those, you get the whole feel. Then when you want to hone in on one particular address or attraction, that's when you use your GPS and make it a lot easier.
So these roadside attractions mainly an American thing, or do you know if they were also popular in the 50s and 70s in other countries?
Not as much, not as much. It's kind of an Americana thing. And that's a reason Route 66, for example, gets so many foreign visitors, because it's that lure and the magic and the mystique of a little two-lane highway going across America that shows you what America's all about. And anybody that's been on that particular route can vouch for the fact that you see a lot of Asians and a lot of Germans, and you see a lot of people in motorcycles and Mustang convertibles. So yeah, it's a big international thing. There are small enclaves of like the motor courts and so forth in Europe, and again in Canada, but nothing to the neon signage or nothing like the pink elephants and all that we in America think are cool.
What about, do you have future things that you want to see and explore, photograph?
Since I put this book together, it's just been published 2 months now. I'm still doing research and still trying to plan when this quarantine thing is over. Canceled a couple of plans already this summer that I had, but yeah, there's a lot of things that I want to do, and a lot of things that I can't believe I missed out there. In no way do I say that that's every muffler man or every large donut, because I have found many more since I published this book. So I can see probably a second volume of this book coming out. And then I'm also going to hone in on a similar book for a couple states, and like middle Tennessee where I live, and probably up in Maine, do one on the Maine, and maybe Kentucky and some of the others that have a lot of these kind of things in them. Like Pennsylvania, I mean, I could put together a 170-page book on Pennsylvania with the oddities going through that state, Lincoln Highway and such. So it's there's so much more out there to see.
Do you know if any of these are in danger? Well, I guess you mentioned that Dr. Evermore's thing has to move,
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, Dr. Evermore. In fact, you were with me that last time I was up there, I think, weren't you? When SCA went up there. We met his now widow, who was overseeing it. But yeah, that's definitely, and I would say probably Elmer Long's Bottle Ranch. I don't know, it's free. I don't know how long somebody can keep it up. And then some of the other things that aren't being built, but are still there, will probably disappear. And it's kind of like the dust to dust thing. It's I would say everything out there that's in this book is in danger over a period of time. If people stop paying attention to it, if people stop going to it, if people stop talking about it, what's going to go? But the good news is that, like along highway Route 66 in Oklahoma and in Missouri, there is a lot of upsurgence of people who are creating new and maybe imitation of what things used to be on Route 66. States are giving grants to local communities to restore the mom and pop motels, the neon signs. A lot of the neon signs that have just been standing by the roadside for years are now being restored. A lot of them are being put into small neon parks in various cities around the country and in the various sign museums. And there's a resurgence in interest. And the AAA says this summer we'll see more people taking day trips and maybe 2-day trips because of COVID thing. And I think as more and more people get in their cars and start driving the USA in their Chevrolet, I think people will start saying, this stuff's pretty cool. Let's help restore. Let's go to this mom and pop's little grocery store. Let's go to this little eatery, or let's go to this old motel. You know, it's not going to be as nice as maybe a Hampton Inn, but you're keeping money locally. You're helping these people restore this stuff. And there's a lot of passion and interest in all of that. So it's a bright future for Roadside.
There's a comment, I think, from Denny. He says he has to mention that the canoe in the minefield photo,
yeah,
is William Least Heat Moons from River Horse.
So the canoe belongs to William Least Half Moon? He's the one that wrote Blue Line Highways. So that's kind of fun, if that's the same guy. I can't imagine two people having that same name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Denny's up in Cincinnati. If it's a Denny, I think it is. And I know
he says it's the same guy.
Yeah, good. But yeah, if anybody's read Blue Line Highways, he was the first one to really get in the back of a van and just start traveling all over America. And he wasn't necessarily interested in the pink elephants or things on the pole as much as he was local cultures and local sites and local people. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that the canoe was there. That's fun. Thanks, Denny.
Yeah, I think that's all I see here.
Okay. Well.
Anybody else?
Well, I appreciate everybody tuning in. This has been fun for me. Love to show off my photography, my exhibition of wonderful roadside pictures that I enjoy putting together. And hopefully, you've seen enough that you might want to go out and sign in to Amazon tonight. If not, I think this is on tape and you can keep watching this over and over again if you want to keep watching. So thank you. I guess I'll sign off now. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in.